Hi, I'm Steve here with Fitness for 5 and Fitness for 10. Back here with Dr. Nario again for our ongoing series of interviews. And how you doing, Doctor? He's with the Biointegrative Health Center in Reno, Nevada. You can look them up online. They do a lot of really cool treatments. So how's it going, Doctor?
Pretty good, Steve. Thanks for the invite again, and glad to be here.
Okay, let's talk about sugar today. You know, there's all kinds of sugar. I know enough to be, I'm not going to say just enough to be dangerous because I've been doing this all my life. I'm in the fitness and wellness industry, but you know, there's all kinds of sugar. Sugar takes different forms. You know, there's the white stuff that's in cake and all that, and there's glucose and glucagon and, you know, fructose and lactose and all kinds of sugar. But what is sugar?
Well, Steve, pretty good and basic question. Well, again, this probably is a premature video for the upcoming Halloween. So we're getting ready for Halloween, but as early as now, we're going to be preventative about this and we're going to give education out there for everybody. And again, Halloween is always about sugar binging, kids eating candy, or maybe parents taking away candy for themselves. That's another scenario that you have to remember.
That's what I
sugar, because yeah, everybody went through that. And sugar is actually a soluble carb or carbohydrate, and it's responsible for the addicting sweet taste in our food, found usually more in plants and more abundant in sugar cane, corns, and beets. Various kinds of sugars. One usually there's so many of them out there, but one of the groups are very common, and people know about this a lot, which are called the simple sugars, known as monosaccharides. Okay, so these are just single molecules of sugar. So again, let's go back to the terms you mentioned a while ago: glucose, fructose, and galactose. So sugar is usually prominent in fruits in the form of what we call fructose. So F, fructose to fruits. Most common and well-known sugar in food, again, is table or granulated sugar, which you mentioned, the white stuff, is a combination of glucose and fructose. So again, there's so many sugars out there. I kind of just nitpick the ones that are more common for people to be familiar with.
Okay, so again, sugar it takes a lot of different paths. It changes forms once it gets in the body. So how is sugar in general used by our bodies?
Right. So Steve, the thing here is, if you think about this, this is going to be like almost memorizing the subway of New York if you want to figure out how glucose is metabolized. But let's make this simple. Glucose is, again, going back to the basics, is the #1 source of energy in the human body, in our bodies, especially for the brain. The term sugar high or sugar rush comes into play when we excessively intake sugar and we go like hyper and crazy. Even your red cells use glucose for energy in order for it to function as it is. And 1 gram of sugar is equals to 4 calories for the cells to use as energy. Sugars, again, so now this is the start of that subway path that I was talking about. Sugars are absorbed quickly and digested easily through the intestines. Once it's there, it transfers into the blood and gets distributed into the cells. While in the cells, now they go into breakdown, or they get metabolized to produce energy for those cells to function. And glucose is at its basic form of energy is used by our bodies so that it can run every day as the fuel. Now let's go to the dreaded fructose. So as you can see, I'm going to the fructose, and I'm kind of alienating it for the reason that fructose, when it's metabolized differently and when consumed in excess, becomes a big strain for the body. And that actually causes undesirable effects and eventually complications.
Yeah, and the fructose is found in fruit, is one place it's found, right?
That's correct. That is correct.
Okay, so how is sugar really affecting our everyday lives with this Western diet and, kids in line for liver transplants? And how is sugar affecting our culture, our society in this country?
Well, see, present times, actually, you can imagine it's an invasion of sugar of our daily lives. Average Americans consumes about 22 teaspoons of sugar per day. Average,
Wow.
not the special ones like you, and which amounts to 77 pounds of sugar per year. So this is seen through. Now this is where the bad guys and the good guys separate. This is seen through the excessive consumption of what we call high fructose corn syrup, which is usually found, number one, in soda. And it's not your M&Ms, it's not your Snickers bar, but the soda that you drink is the biggest contributor to this fructose intake of the United States. And this is the number one source of calories in our country right now. And 55% of sweeteners used in food and beverage are made of corn. So that's where fructose in plants and where it comes from. And the food and beverage manufacturers use this because it is cheap and sweeter than any form of sugar.
Yeah. So I know, I'm in the business. I'm not a doctor, but I'm in the business. High fructose corn syrup. Can we
That is
just call
right.
it poison?
I don't
What
know.
is this stuff?
I don't know if the commercial companies will like you for that, but I guess you can.
So what is it? High fructose corn syrup. I know it's in a lot of things, but now you're combining fructose with something else that's making it even worse. Am I correct?
Right. So as you can see now, we have actually separated the good guys and the bad guys. Fructose is our bad dude. Glucose, people think that, oh, it's always bad to have glucose. Not really, because that's also part of our energy system. It's our fuel. So it can be good, can be bad, but majority of the time, the fructose part is the one that we should probably keep an eye on. So the human body cannot effectively digest excessive amounts of sugar. So it's like a ton of load for work for the system. As mentioned a while ago, glucose and fructose have differences in a way that they are metabolized. The comparison is that 20% of glucose is metabolized in the liver, which is then utilized by every cell in the body and is immediately, so the word is immediately burnt up after consumption. So poof, gone. So you don't have to think about that. On the other hand, high fructose corn syrup is metabolized more quickly, flooding the body and converting it directly to fat, and eventually leading to major metabolic disorders or illnesses. So this acts as evidence that fructose found in sweets, soda, and fruits, especially if taken in excess, is harmful. This new bruise of all sorts of problems has now ill effects to our health. So as you can see, our fructose corn syrup, the body's just like, can't handle that, I'll turn it into fat. But at least glucose gets a chance to be metabolized.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it messes up your hormones too. So, you
Mhm.
know, insulin levels, all that stuff. So, what are some of the complications of eating high fructose corn syrup?
Right. So high fructose corn syrup. So you have to remember that it's not only in sweeteners now. So people have to be smart about reading the labels. That's how you'll feel. You'll be surprised. Ketchup has high fructose corn syrup. Even the non-sweet products have high fructose corn syrup. So my caveat here is always look at the labels, people. So you would know if you have this as part of your intake in terms of the food choice that you're making. So going back, studies shown that fructose is readily utilized by cancer cells to increase their growth, thus promoting cancer mets or spread. So watch out for those donuts and candies in your doctor's offices, because those are the things that drives cancer really wild. And as a general recommendation, total fructose consumption. Again, we can't live in a bubble. We are going to consume fructose. And when I mentioned that, even fruits, we're going to have fruits as sources of natural fructose, should be below 25 grams per day, which includes, again, as I mentioned to you, the count should include the fruits, the actual sugars that we take as toxic. And usually these are the addicting and deadly ones, the ones that are in candy bars and junk food. We must recognize that sugar is one of the most damaging substances in our everyday diet. It must come from natural sources if we need to consume fructose. And again, don't eat excessively, especially if you say, I eat fruits anyway. It's healthy, right? But when it gets to a point that your body cannot metabolize or store that fructose, it becomes dangerous. So consuming fructose is far worse than eating fat. And major dangers of fructose or illnesses that I can tell you about would be diabetes, chronic inflammation of the body, elevation of uric acid, which can aggravate gout, obesity, heart disease, hypertension, strokes, kidney stones, kidney cancers. So in our clinic, and how we deal with sugar is we let our patients go through detox protocols, especially we do it IV therapy methods and even supplementals. And the complications also is the one that we need to be worried about, as I mentioned, from the diseases that are included in excessive sugar or fructose intake.
Well, great information. It's a topic that needs to be talked about, sugar, what it does in the body, how your body uses it, how your body makes glucose, all that stuff. So thank you, Dr. Nario. That's Dr. Nario at Biointegrative Health Center in Reno, Nevada. You can look them up online. So thanks for being with us again and your answers. Thank you, doctor.
All right, as we all know, and knowledge is power, and thank you for letting me provide you with edge in longevity and health maintenance, which I call the biological edge or the bio edge. Thanks, Steve, for the invite again.
All right, we'll talk to you next time.